Okay, thank you, Sarah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining me. Inshallah, tonight we're going to go deeper into the teaching about Noah and what Noah had to face, which in a lot of ways we're facing as a global population right now ourselves. It's very similar when you look into it. So I think it's actually for me, it's a very appropriate reading, and I'm happy to share it. I will say a couple points just to kind of start it off is that this teaching is a little bit about what happens when, as a global population, people don't listen to God. So what happens when we're globally turning away, as the people of Noah globally turned away? How do we deal with that? And then secondly, and even more importantly, is about setting limits and lines. Like, how do we actually set limits and lines with what happens, in the world when people cross our lines? How do we set those limits in a clear way? What are limits? Finally, to recognize that on the outer, we do have to set limits, but on the inner, we actually have to be soft and open and gentle and responsive to God all the time. And that actually it's the soft person who ultimately is going to enter into the higher worlds, and the hard person who becomes a rock does not enter into the higher world. So it's really about softening up our hearts and our souls. And softening doesn't mean that we let ourselves be walked on or hurt, but it does mean that we're gentle and peaceful and loving and forgiving inside. And at the same time, we have limits when we cross, things that aren't right. People start to make fun of us or hurt us or put us down or those type of things. We do have to set those limits, as much as we don't want to, but we always come back to the gentle love. Noah, but as you know, lived almost 1,000 years. He would have lived 1,000 years, but or maybe I'm getting my stories wrong. It was Adam who was living 1,000 years, and then he gave 50 years away. So he lived 950. And of course, Noah lived to be 950 as well. So they're brothers and living 950 years. All right, so let's read about this and understand these teachings. Now, remember that the teachings of Sufism are about your heart. Okay, so just so you can think about these things, it's, we're not raising the Kundalini to open the third eye. What we're doing in essence is we're spiraling the heart. The heart is opening, and eventually the heart opens and it swirls through the third eye, and you get that same enlightenment and the same opening, but you also have it happening through your connection to the heart. So the approaches are somewhat different. And the way we spiral the heart is through surrendering our hearts to the light of the divine, the light of God, subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we really say yes. We really say yes to God's light. And if you're holding places in your own heart or soul where you're struggling, like you're not letting go, then you won't reach. Reaching to God, you have to let go. It's a letting go into God. It's letting go into God. It's allowing yourself to let go of your structures. There's many, many structures, and we all carry structures of thought, structures of consciousness, structures of who we think we are. But really, all those things ultimately stop us. We have to let them all go, and then we have to open our hearts up to really receiving the divine light. And again, Allah will test us, wherever you hold, which basically, are the centers, you'll get tested. If you hold on to money, then Allah will take your money away or not give you a lot of money. Or, the other side is Allah might give you a lot of money and see how you get attached to it, which can actually be a worse teaching. If you're holding on to, tribe, then God may take your tribe away. If you're holding on to sexuality, God may take the sexuality away. So God is working with us all the time to let go of attachments. But why? Because ultimately we have to let Allah's light take over the place of attachments inside of us. In other words, if we're attached to a mind, or we're attached to an idea, or we're attached to a tribe, or we're attached to our fears, or whatever it is that we may be attached to, those attachments block the light of God from entering and incorporating itself into our being. And that's what needs to happen. We let go, we let God in, we surrender to God, we bow to God, we allow ourselves to be consumed by the divine light, and then we disappear in that. That's called fana. And then we're awakened in it, and we come back in to stand strong in it, and that's called baka. So that's the basic Sufi path in a nutshell. And of course, our motivation is through these prophets. Each of these prophets, you could say, was a very, very high perfect master, if you'd like. Some people say they were avatars. I think that however you'd like to call them, they are extremely, extremely high descents of divine realization. And they, in that state of consciousness, were able to receive direct revelation from God, all of them, and as well as inspiration and understanding and explanations that came from divine itself. So the prophets, if you really get to know them, were extremely incredible masters, all of them. And I think when we hear them as prophets, we kind of think of them as sort of mouthpieces for God. They're kind of speaking God's words. I think that's absolutely true. They are doing that. But if you look really deeply, you'll see that they're so awake. There's so much perfection in them. They're really the high perfect masters. So anyways, with that introduction, let's jump into the teaching on Nu, or Noah, the station of Furqan. And let's begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the merciful and the compassionate. This is the story of the prophet Nu, or Noah. May peace and blessings be upon him. He was a rasul, which means that Allah sent him with a message to give to his people. Now, I know most of you listening who are with us know the difference between a prophet and a rasul. But for some of the new people, you may not. A rasul is a messenger. So a rasul is higher than a prophet. It's like the high prophets, and generally they bring a global message to the world. They are bringing the advent of a very important holy message. So, one of the first rasuls was, of course, Abraham, and then after that, Moses or Musa. Musa brought Judaism and that whole stream of consciousness and divine law. And then, of course, Ibrahim brought the concept of God, that there's one God, stand present with that one God. That was his teaching. And then, of course, later, Jesus came. Jesus was there to bring the advent and return of the love to the Jewish consciousness, which had gone into the mind because of its Gnostic nature. And finally, Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, came, and he was the final of that line, that stream. He brought the final revelation, which is he put all the prophetic teachings together like beads on a string. He was the final bead that tied the string and said, this is how they all fit together. This is what they all mean. This is what we're keeping, and this is what we're letting go of. And that became his teaching. Of course, that has been interpreted many ways today. But in essence, if you look in the depth of it, you'll see that the teaching is one of unity of all things. It says in the Quran, and we sent Nu unto his folk, and he said, Lo, I am a plain warner unto you, that ye serve none save Allah. Lo, I fear for you the retribution of a painful day. This is Surah Hud, 11:25. So look, he's telling us his message. I'm a plain warner. And he's warning them about the day of judgment. Noah was sent to tell his people about a judgment day, a day in which Allah asks everyone about what he has done in his life. Allah told Noah to tell his people to pray to Allah. Now Noah said, pray to Allah, because I am afraid of what Allah will do to you if you do not follow his word. He will put you in the fire in the last days. Noah's people did not pray to Allah, they prayed to their idols. Okay, so again, this is the first Again, teaching of all prophets, which is what are we praying to? Are we really praying to God, the one God, to Allah? Excuse me, or are we praying to idols? Idols are, multiple gods. They may be, money, it may be power, it may be control, it may be who knows what. What are we praying to? In other words, what are we worshiping? That's what it's really stating. What's the point of worship? Are we worshiping the one God and following its truth? Or are we worshiping something other than the one God and not following its truth? The names of the idols that Noah's people prayed to were Wud, Suwa, and Yaguth. Ya'uk, and Nasser. This is from Surah Nuh. They were made from stone and given the names of the planets in the heavens because they thought that it was the planets that sent everything to them, rain, health, etc. For that reason, they prayed to them. They also thought that the planets were their guides. Since the planets can only be seen at night, they prayed to the stone idols to guide them to the planets. Okay, so let's just sit in that for just a moment, kind of get a sense of Noah's time. Okay, so they're full of idols. And they believe that the planets in the heavens were the real gods and the idols were the guides to those gods. Very paganistic. All right. Remembering, what was his name? There was a comedian. He was joking about Noah. Did a great thing about Noah. It was very funny. Anyways, Allah sent Bill Cosby. Allah sent Noah to tell his people that their idols could not help them. There is one who created the stars and the planets in their orbits, and they also pray to Allah. Okay. So everybody just kind of sit with that for a moment, that there is one God who created the stars and the planets, and they also pray to Allah. Okay. And of course, like if you go into the Indian tribes, like we went into the Havasupai tribes and we were down in where was it? The Grand Canyon. And they were all praying to a large rock. They had this one big rock and they were all praying to it. And they believed that that rock was their God. But I remember when I went into the rock, there was clearly a spirit. There was a spirit in that rock. But when I looked at that spirit was in submission to God. It wasn't trying to be their God. It was actually pointing to God. It was trying to say, hey, God is, and it was a very pointed rock, by the way. It was like pointing up at the heavens saying, God is there. Why are you turning to me? Why do you think that I am God? So it was really very interesting from that point of view to have that. Okay. So again, this is where we have to look inside of our hearts and really look deep to say, well, are we really worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are we really worshiping him, or are we subtly putting something in front of him? A guru, a teacher, a person, a stone statue, Jesus on the cross, all these things, these are images. These are images. But we have to go beyond all images and place ourselves at the feet of our beloved God. We have to put ourselves at God's feet and put our hearts in direct worship to the one, direct worship of the one. Because you see, you're not going to be embodying the stone, and you're not going to be embodying a statue, and you're not going to be embodying Christ on a cross, and you're not going to be embodying a guru. You're going to be letting all those go in time, and you're going to be embodying one thing, which is the light of God. You're going to allow that light to come into you. Even Buddha said, if you see me on the road, kill me. He was saying, if you put me in front of divinity, you should kill me. You see, he was saying the same thing. We have to not make images. We have to put ourselves directly before the presence of the Most High. and surrender to that. So Allah sent Noah to tell his people that their idols could not help them. There is one who created the stars and the planets in their orbits. And these planets and their orbits also pray to Allah. So there is no reason to pray to the stars. But there was no one who listened to the word of Noah, may the peace and blessings be upon him. He still continued calling. And he continued this calling and this sending of the message of Allah to his people for 1,000 years, less 50. So he lived to 950. He called his people to come and to listen to the message of Allah and to pray to Allah, but they refused. When the sons of Noah's people reached 19 years old, their father said to them, "Be careful of Noah. Do not listen to him, because if you listen to his word, he will put you in the fire." See, isn't it interesting? This is how Shaitan works. The devils work this way. They do reverse psychology. They're going to put you in the fire. So what they do to catch you is they say, Noah's going to put you in the fire. That's exactly one of their main method of catching people. So they say, they whisper in your ear. They say, okay, this person is doing wrong, but in fact, that person is doing right and they're doing wrong. These type of things. This is how they work. I was speaking to one of our beloveds yesterday, and she told me about her grandma, that her grandma was a very wise woman, but they were so wise that the people at the time started to call her a witch. And they started treating her and started condemning her as a witch because she had the ability to see into things, to be able to look into things and sort of see what might be happening and what could happen. And she was so accurate that they said she was a witch. So she got persecuted, and the persecution of this woman was passed generation to generation, so that the person today, the younger one who was close to the grandma, is carrying the persecution, is afraid to step into her light. She has great light, but she won't step into her light because she doesn't want to be persecuted. She has to let herself take that risk and go beyond all those things and be able to step into who she is. When the sons of Noah's people reached 19 years old, their father said to them, "Be careful of Noah. Do not listen to him, because if you listen to his word, he will put you in the fire." They told many stories about Noah. If you follow Noah, they said, you will become crazy. His people tried to make life difficult for him, but Noah was very patient. He said that perhaps the children that did not listen to him were not suitable for that way, prophetic way, and that maybe the next generation would follow him. So Noah, who lived a very long life in the world, the dunya, waited for the third, fourth, and fifth generations, because every 100 years there's a new creation. Okay, so this is a very deep teaching. We know that in the Sufi teachings that every 100 years there is somebody born who essentially sets the wheel straight again. So every 100 years, there's a reviver, somebody who revives the wheel. Okay, and of course, we believe that may have been Sidi, but nevertheless, the truth is that the story is that every 100 years that person comes. Okay, so he was saying that he knew that every 100 years there was a revival, and he was saying, well, I'll wait for them to die, and then the next one will come and I'll wait for them, and then the next one come, I'll wait for them. He did that for third, fourth, and fifth generations. I thought that was an interesting concept, an interesting way of dealing with people who wouldn't listen. Just let them die out and we'll get new ones. In the time of Noah, when a person reached 100 years of age, his mind and soul were complete, and he could understand everything if he opened his heart. See, now this is a real deep teaching right here. Like, I think that this is not just in the time of Noah. I think if a person reaches 100 and they're conscious and they haven't lost their minds, that something amazing can happen to them. So 100 is a very special year. Noah would speak and send his voice to all those who had reached this age. If they did not listen, they lost their chance. Noah waited nearly 10 generations, 1,000 years, and gave the chance to everyone, but only a few people from every generation followed him. When some of his people took him and put him in the rubbish, still he gave them mercy and sent the messages of the law. Okay, so look at what he had to put with. He had to deal with, if you're really truthful to who you are, and you're really honest in your truthfulness of who you are to Allah, because you see, in today's world, a lot of people are learning to be honest and real about their feelings and about their desires and about what they want. I think that's not a bad step. I think that's a good step. But if they do it without Allah's presence, that can lead to hedonism, selfishness, and the desire nature being pushed forward. And what ends up happening is the ego can become very strong. So if we do this in the presence of Allah, we're true for who we are, but then we bow to Allah's light, Allah changes how we act. We don't throw our feelings around so much. We're not angry so much. We don't put people down. There's mercy, there's compassion, there's love, because that's the nature of God. So God tempers those things. So it's very important that as you let yourself be, you should be who you are. Be who you are. Experience who you are. Feel who you are. Let yourself open up and be what you are. At the same time, take who you are and put it into the presence of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let Allah's light fill you and see what happens. So maybe who you are is you're angry about something. Okay, you bring it to Allah, Allah says, give mercy. There's a big difference between being angry and being who you are and being who you are in the presence of Allah and giving mercy. You see the difference? Okay, so we have to learn to modify the self with the divine. Okay, which is different than just being yourself, which is a lot of what people in the West are following today. Be who you are, be yourself. Noah was very patient, and he did not want to make anything difficult for his people. He continued to say, follow me, my beloved, and Allah will put you in the garden. He, Allah, is the giver. He will take away all your sins and give you new life in this material world. You will feel that he gives you a long life. But his people refused everything. Again, this is the Jamal side of God. If you follow what God is asking of you, and you really understand it, you really, you're not just following it in your mind, but you really get it, you'll see that life becomes incredibly beautiful. God puts you in the garden now, not when you die. You're in the garden now, And there are many gardens. There's a number of gardens. But when you enter the garden now, your heart becomes full of love. And your heart becomes full of beauty, and your heart becomes full of light. So he says, Allah will put you in the garden now. He will put you in the garden now. He, Allah, is the giver. He, Allah, will take away all your sins, and he will give you a new life in this material world. You will feel that he gives you a long life. But his people refused everything. And then he said, if you do not follow the order of Allah, I am sure that after he has been very patient with you, he will send something difficult to you and take everything from you. Then you will be very sad. But how can I say sad? There will be no time for you to be sad or to speak, because he will take you like the wind moves a tree, and there will be no space. Okay, so now Sidi's kind of giving you, a warning, but it's also what Noah gave to his people. Noah had the same thing. He was teaching him the same thing. He was saying, if you follow Allah in the deep way, meaning if you really listen with the ears of your heart, if you listen deeply with the ears of your heart, then Allah will put you in the unity. He'll put you in the garden, or he'll put you in the unity. Unity is even higher than the garden. He'll put you in the state of unity. Okay, in that state of unity, your experience will be incredible. It will be so beautiful, so wonderful, and simple, and you need so little. It's just amazing to sit in the light of oneness. It's enough. It's enough for everything. But then he goes on and he warns you. He says, but if you refuse, when Allah sends you the order and you follow the self, look out. If Allah sends you the order and you don't follow it, look out. Now he's going to put you in the toilet. He's going to put you in the rubbish. I like to say the toilet. Puts you in the toilet. And then you get to experience life in the toilet, which is not very nice. It's stinky. It's ugly. It's dirty. It hurts. It feels bad. It struggles. And people get thrown in the toilet. And that's been my experience over the 20 years teaching this, is that when we listen to Allah's light, so much incredible gifts are given. And when we follow ourselves, we get thrown in the toilet and we have to deal with that negativity. For that reason, he says in the Quran, serve none but Allah. Look, I come to you from him, Noah says, as a warner and a bringer of good news, and bidding you to seek forgiveness from your Lord. Then turn to him, and he will grant you a beautiful provision until a specified time appointed, and bestow on every generous one his generosity. But if you turn away, then truly I fear for you suffering on that great day. To Allah is your return, and he has power over all things. Surah Hud 11:2. Okay, so Sidi's staying with this theme of following a law, and that all good opens up for you. Now, following a law, you see, it's a slow thing. Like, you have to tune into him. It doesn't it's not that a law necessarily comes with fireworks every time you follow him. Following a law means you tune into him. You feel what he says to you. You feel what his desire is. You feel what he wants for you. And you simply let go and surrender into it. You say yes to it. Okay, Allah, that's what you want. Then you go back to yourself, and yourself says, oh yeah, but I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you say, no, Allah said this. I'm not going to follow myself. I'm going to follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me. You're going to follow what he says. So this is the teaching. So Sidi follows us in this deep way. He will grant you a beautiful provision until a specified time appointed, and bestow on every generous one his generosity. And what is his generosity? His generosity is the generosity of goodness, the generosity of completeness, the generosity of having his light fill your heart and feeling really, 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 really good. All right, let's take a moment and just contemplate this. Can I see we're slightly going off here? So let's just sit for a moment and just take this in and see what's going on inside. Okay, good. All right, so again, just remember that it's really for you in your heart. Can you really hold on to Allah? Can you really follow what he says moment to moment? Can you really open your heart to that divine light? If you do, then all good will come slowly, and generosity will come slowly, and beauty will come slowly. All right, let's continue. The people of Noah did not believe in their prophet and did not listen to his words. For that reason, when Noah sent his word, it was the last word from Allah to his people. It was as if he said, This is your chance to follow the way of Allah. And if you do not follow, then Allah will bring destruction upon you. Okay. Just try to open and try to say yes to Allah. Try to let go of your struggles with the world and your family and your kids and your husband and your wife and all that stuff. Try to let it go. Okay, and just accept what Allah makes. To Allah is your return. Why did Noah's people refuse to believe in him? There were many reasons in their minds. They thought that if he was a human being, he could not be a prophet. If he was a prophet, then he would be an angel. Among the few followers of Noah were the weak, the slaves, and the poor. And his people wondered how he could sit with those whom they thought to be liars. If he was a prophet, then the strong and the rich would follow him. They also thought that Noah should discharge the weak and poor among his followers. But Noah, may the peace and blessings be upon him, did not speak from himself. Allah sent him, and everything that he spoke from Allah. He sent the word of Allah to his people. This is the station of the divine speaker. The divine speaker means that every word that comes from their heart and from their mouth is really coming from Allah's light, from Allah's truth. So they're speaking for the presence of God. It says in the Holy Quran, the chiefs from among his folk who covered up the truth said, "We don't see you as anything but a human being like us. We do not see that anyone follows you except the lowest among you." And then unthinkingly, "And we do not see any merit in you over us. Rather, we think that you are liars." Okay, does that sound familiar to people today? Okay, are we running into that in the world today, that the same thing, people come out and speak truth, and what ends up happening? They're called liars. People come out and they speak for God. What happens? They're called liars. Today, if you speak against the powers that be, maybe they're going to try to get rid of you. In other words, it hasn't changed. We're living in the same basic environment that Noah was lived in, but we're living in it today. Okay. All right. It says in the Holy Quran, the chiefs from among his folk who covered up the truth said, "We do not see you as anything but a human being like us. We do not see that anyone follows you except the lowest among us." And then unthinkingly, "And we do not see any merit in you over us. Rather, we think you are liars." This is the case. The powerful people today, even today, the power and the people, the highest people, in a way, are the most resistant to God's words. They're the ones that are mostly saying no. Now, not all. There are some that are really fully beautiful and capable and wonderful, but some, in their way, they astaghfirullah, they're causing problems. Noah's people said that they were higher than Noah and all the people who followed him. Noah was very soft and very polite. He was always the complete earth for his people. They threw stones at him, and still he sent them the love and the peace. Noah was patient. If he was not patient, how could he have stayed nearly 1,000 years with these people, giving them love and mercy and peace? Even the little children hid him, and still he gave them sweets. This is a special quality. Not everyone can have this quality if he is not a prophet. Some of Noah's people even carried him and threw him into the sea. Allah helped him and returned him to the shore. Many times his people tried to hurt him, and still he gave to them. Okay, so let's take a moment and kind of sit with what we're feeling and what you heard here. And where is it taking you? Like, where are you going with this in yourself? What's happening? Okay, are you being like Noah? Are you being the earth for people? Are you taking their slights and giving back the love? What are you doing in there? You see, it's Allah weighs all these things inside your heart. And if you're going to reach the unity, or you want to reach your awakening, your enlightenment, these type of things, it's all done on weight. Allah weighs you, weighs your spirit, weighs your actions, weighs your heart, weighs your consciousness. And if the weight is enough in the light, then you get elevated. But if the weight is heavy with greed or materialism or judgment or separation or anger or rage or any negative emotions, then you weigh heavy. And in that heaviness, Allah puts you down. So again, the question is that weighing of your heart. Like, are you really, really deeply weighing that in your heart? Is it really happening for you or not? And so it's important to take your time to really take a look inside there and see what's happening. Can you really face that in yourself? Can you really look at that in yourself? And Allah knows. Allah knows exactly what is there. But you know what? So so do your teachers. We also have a deep sense of what's going on because Allah also shows a lot of that. Allah shows what's happening. So it's not that hard to know it. You can feel it when the light weighs heavy, because when the light weighs heavy, then the person's spiritual growth speeds up. It's amazing. You see it literally speed up. They just begin to zoom to God. But when they weigh heavy in the materialism, heavy in the dunya, in the creative world, heavy in the self, it's like somebody threw an anchor down into the ground and the spirit can't even get off the ground. It can't even fly. How is it going to fly back to God when it can't even get off the ground? You see, so this question of releasing this anchor is a very important piece of the process. All right. Go a little bit further here. We got about 2 more pages, and I know it's a lot. Actually, why don't we take a short break? I think I'm tired of reading myself in the moment. So any thoughts, comments, questions, resistances, rage, anger? You tell me. I'm open for anything. Door is open. Just wherever you want to go. It's wide open. So, what is it? *6 or raise your hand? Okay, Abdul Rahman Francesco. How are you doing? Haven't seen you in some time. There you are. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Okay. Salam alaikum. Hi, Ibrahim.
Alaikum salam.
I think I need to understand, because I have a great difficulty accepting that God is punishing. If God is love, how can love punish you?
Let me ask you a question. I mean, you would know this of anybody. If somebody comes to your house and they're from Haiti and they're practicing voodoo and they throw a chicken in your yard, which has happened to you, and they start putting curses on you, which has happened to you, what do you think Allah does with that?
I don't know.
Does he just love them and say, oh, my beloveds, continue to curse Abdul Rahman, continue to throw chickens on his yard, continue to run his life down? Do you think Allah does that?
I have no clue. I always heard that God is all permissive, that we have free will and we can do whatever we choose, and then we put up with the consequences of a reaction to our actions. But I'm sure if a father sees that somebody's doing that to their son, he's not going to stay there and do nothing about it.
That's right. And wouldn't it be in the love, if there is a judgment day, if there is a penalty today for what they do, isn't it in the love to stop them from what they're doing?
Yes.
You see? And so Allah is all loving. It's not that he's not all loving, but Allah also has boundaries. Allah also has limits. So if you cross the line of the limit, how does Allah show you that you crossed the line? He's going to send something towards you to teach you. And he'll continue to try to teach you to the day you stop breathing. But the teaching of love, the love, like as a parent, you're a parent, you have a child, you want your child to do well. You see your child starting to steal, you see your child starting to use drugs, getting drunk, doing alcohol, putting people. What do you do as a parent? First, you talk to them gently, then you're nice to them, you care about them, then you warn them a little bit more, and then you warn them a little bit more. And then one day they lie to you again, and they come home and they do the same thing again, and then you get angry at them, and then you put consequences on them, and you continue until maybe they learn, right? And that's how God works. It's not that God's not loving, but God does set limits. God can be wrathful when people break those limits. And those limits are things that break people's hearts, kill people, break things that destroy civilization, things like that. That's where God's wrath comes out, because God in the end is trying to protect his creation and keep it pure. Okay.
Okay.
Is that helpful? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, he's loving, but and it's unconditional loving, but loving sometimes means tough love. Doesn't only mean that we're gently loving everybody. Somebody's doing evil and we're just, oh, come on, do as much evil as you want. You have free will, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't work that way. Allah says, I give you free will, but if you're going to do evil, sooner or later, the police are going to catch you and maybe something bad's going to happen to you. It doesn't go on forever. Allah sets limits.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else like to speak about or share or anything like that? Happy to take a few. Otherwise, I might just call on a few of you just to kind of hear what you have to say. So, okay, Sumaya, how about for you?
Were you, did you mention this in class the other day about going directly to Allah versus through Muhammad, and that you saw one way was stronger than another way?
Yes.
Okay, so in that you mentioned about, sometimes I struggle with, bowing right to Allah or seeing Allah in the heart of Muhammad and bowing that way.
Yes.
In the bowing, still bowing to Allah, but in Muhammad's heart, if we're walking this way. So I'm getting kind of confused with.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but let me see this. Allah is Allah. Allah is beyond Muhammad. You have to know that.
Yes.
Yes, Allah is Allah. We bow ultimately to Allah. But in this particular rendition of prophetic revelation, it comes down, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. Okay, so La ilaha illallah means there's only Allah, there's only God, and we should bow to that God. But Muhammadan Rasulullah means that God used Muhammad to explain his teachings. So he's not telling you to bow to Muhammad. He's saying, listen to the teachings that Muhammad is explaining to you through his heart that reflects me. Try to find me in those teachings, but still bow to me. Okay. And if you look at that in the light, what happened, I don't know if you can see this, but can you see that? I can't tell.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Normally we bow to Allah and we are really in prostration, but you see, if you allow him to explain it and you listen to it as a mirroring of God, you're not to bow to Muhammad as God, peace and blessings be upon him, but you're bowing to him as a messenger or a speaker or a revelator of divine wisdom. in that, now you bow and you're bowing to God, but you're letting him explain it. And by doing that, you actually increase, what I see is you actually accelerate. There's an acceleration as long as you don't put Prophet Muhammad in front of Allah.
I think I understand it better now. Thank you for the transmission helped.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I was trying to really look at, like, how do we really capture the hakika? And, the hakika really means Muhammadan hakika al-Muhammadi is really what it's called, its full name. The reality of Prophet Muhammad is how we call it. But the reality of Prophet Muhammad is the reality of truth that is found through the heart of love and mercy. So the reality of truth is the illumination, the enlightenment, the samadhi, the things that happen when somebody reaches those levels. So when we take that and we put that into this pure light, you see, then we start to have this very holy experience. And that was what I was speaking about. Because I think that some people were missing that and they weren't going there.
Thank you for explaining that deeper. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Okay, Shahida, would you like to say anything? Shahida, you have to unmute yourself, I think. How do they?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Shahida.
Oh, good. Okay. When you were talking about Allah protecting his creation, sometimes I don't understand. If that's the case, why does Allah allow Iblis to do, all the harm he does? Or, when I look out into the world and I see just this chaos, and I know my job is to keep turning to God, even if I don't understand all that. But, I don't understand, why does God allow Iblis to do so much harm, or so much harm to be happening right now in the world? It just seems like we're headed for a precipice, and I'm like, but we're gonna make it at this rate, So yeah, that's kind of my question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It goes back to creation. It's a very old story. You have to kind of listen to the story, which is that the initial, again, these are Sufi teachings that came through the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. But the teaching was that Allah created us to know him. Okay, to know him ultimately means to have knowledge of him, or to have experience of him, or to have awareness of God's light. That's the basic reason we're created. So the first step of it is we have to know our creation is not just here to make money, have family, have kids, own a big house, live in Malibu, things like that. The creation is about knowing Allah. You have to know Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing is, and Allah set this in motion, Allah had initially created the angels, and then he created the jinn. The jinn are made of fire. They're invisible to us, just as the angels are, but they're aware, and they can sometimes take form. Some people have seen jinn, like Madame Pele in Hawaii is an example of a jinn that takes form sometimes. A lot of people have seen Pele, and people know that she exists because she's been seen. Okay. So Allah created Iblis. Iblis was extremely wise. Iblis was on the right side of God, but Iblis was made of fire. The problem with fire, like clay, everything has its kind of opposite side. The opposite side of clay is materialism, the seeking of materialism. The opposite side of fire is arrogance. So Iblis was unfortunately extremely wise, but his Achilles' heel was arrogance. So Iblis would not bow to Adam when he was created, because Adam was created to be formed to have the house of God and to put God in his house. And he was made of clay and fire and air and earth. And why did God want to put his house in Adam? Why not put it in Iblis? You see, but Adam was complete because he had all the elements. And God wanted to put his house in something that had all the elements as part of it. So he created the ether for the angels, and he created the fire for the jinn, and we don't know, created in the water, he hasn't talked about. But eventually he created the one who carried all these elements inside of them. That became human beings, because we are meant to carry all the creative aspects of God so that we can ultimately carry and hold God's light within our hearts. Okay, so what happened with that was that when Iblis fell down, which God knew he would, God said, okay, Iblis, what do you want to do? Iblis said, well, I hate your creation, and I hate your human beings, and I want to put them in their place. And God said, fine, I give you permission to do that, because he had created the left hand. He knew that there was going to be forces to test human beings. So he created the testing agents, which were the devils, to see if they could catch human beings. But he said, but you will not be able to catch my human beings if they follow me. But if they don't follow me, you will be able to catch them. That set world in motion. Till today, it hasn't changed. Till today, Allah wants us to know him. Allah wants us to listen to him. Allah wants us to follow him. Till today, Iblis and his minions of devils, and there are millions and billions of them, are trying to catch human beings. Till today, we're in all sorts of struggle with it, as we can see this whole COVID thing and everything else going on. And till today, we as human beings listen to evil and follow it. So it's not that Allah allows human beings individually and collectively to choose what they want. So if we choose a president, we put, President Trump in the United States, then, 51% of the people have to choose it, or approximately that amount. And therefore, he reflects the global consciousness of our people in the majority. Now we put Biden in. Now he reflects the global consciousness of our people in the majority. God then weighs what the people do, and the global decisions are based on the choices that we make. That's how God works. Okay, so it's not that God allows these things. God does not want these things. God wants us to follow. God gave us free will individually and collectively. And then God watches what we do, and he reflects on it. And then based on the choices we make, those reflections are given back. And honestly, if God truly wasn't merciful with the choices that we have made and we've done, human beings would have been gone a long time ago. Honestly, the mistakes that we've made as a collective are, if it wasn't for God's mercy, none of us would be here, honestly. God is merciful, and that's why we're still here. Okay, I hope that answers your question. I don't know. Inshallah.
I think what the transmission I'm getting is that we live in a duality where you have to choose, and it's not that God doesn't love us, and it's not protecting us from Iblis. It's that if we have to choose, and so to choose there has to be a choice. I guess that's it.
That's the free will. The free will is not that we can levitate and everybody can run around and project all over the place. The free will is simply, we have choice. We can choose go left and go right. We can choose good, or we can choose evil. That is free will. It's as simple as that. And if we choose good, we're raised up towards God. If we choose evil, we're raised down. As a collective, if we choose good, we're raised up. If collective, recently I was kind of tracking this myself, but if you remember back, I don't know if it was Bush, I think it was Bush, yeah, was in office, and they had the first big global conference on global warming that happened in Tokyo, I believe it was. And all these scientists came forward and said, global warming is a reality. We're destroying our environment. Coral reefs are dying. Everything's dying. We need to stop global warming. And, the best scientists in the world said that. And then our group came out and said the United States, which was responsible for over a majority of the global warming, came through our petrol emissions. We came out and said, we don't believe that. You're wrong. We're right. This is a episodic thing, happens once every million years, and it's happening again. It has nothing to do with fossil fuels. It has nothing to do with anything else. And we left the accord. We pulled out. And we were the major culprits. We pulled out. Shortly after that, if you watch, it was after that decision that everything started going wrong in the United States. Okay, take a good look. And track it. Go back and look at it. Why? Because remember what I said. We choose our presidents, 51%. They represent. I know you can argue about all the the electives and things, but basically, it's basically the majority is chosen. Okay, and that once that president is in office, the decisions that president makes reflects the people who put that person in office. And if we pull out and we choose materialism and we choose to destroy the environment, what do you think? That's a free choice at a global level. What do you think Allah is going to do with that?
Send us lessons.
Yeah. He didn't accept it. And that began the decline. We've been in decline ever since then in many ways as a country. And that decline is based on selfishness. We chose to become like a cancer ourselves. If we're going to destroy the world so we can just make money, then we become a cancer. And Allah is not going to allow that. Allah is going to put that down. Not in one moment, but He's going to say no to it. He's going to destroy it in His way, in His timing. But the way He's destroying it is by putting the country down. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Stephanie, would you like to say something?
Sorry. Thank you. Salam alaikum. I guess, I don't know if it's a question or a thought, but when you said that he was an earth, a complete earth to everyone, and even in what the others were just mentioning, I can see, like, would it be fair to say that any obstacle that he kind of encountered, or it was like an opportunity to really embody those attributes? So even if it's perceived as negative or anything, it's like that's when you really see if you can be kind or so I wasn't sure, like, and when she says you have to choose, sometimes with that, the yin and the yang symbol, I kind of felt that sometimes we think it has to be one way or the other, but it's that circle. You don't have to choose. You can be on that circle and just kind of bring your awareness to, that balance, that center balance standpoint. Would that be fair or make sense? I don't.
That would be very fair and make lots of sense.
Thanks. I was like, I think that's it. And even if you, so no matter how bad or whatever situations you encounter, it's just how else would you really get to see if you are that trait, or that it's like you have to do that, and you're not going to do it unless you're in that position to really show your intention.
Exactly. I mean, this thing, people talk about, right and wrong, and they talk about good and evil, and they talk about choice, but really it's not until you're tested. And, tested is like, I remember I bought a house once, and then Sidi, who trained us, came to that house, and he told me, I want you to move. I don't like this place. It was up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I said, why? And he said, I won't tell you what he said because I don't want to hurt the people of Jackson Hole, but he said some things that were essentially that we needed to leave. And so when I sold the house, because of some wording that was in the original contract, actually, because I was selling it like early, I actually could have kept an extra $50,000. It was like $50,000 that somehow sneakily got through the contract. It wasn't really straight, but it was there. And I remember it came to me, oh, and the realtor, and they said to me, oh, Dr. Jaffe, you know what? Because of this contract, you get an extra $50,000. You don't have to pay these people back. Should we just take the $50,000? You see, Shaitan, this is the devil. And I sat with it and I said, what is the truth here? And the truth was that this was a mistake in writing, but in intention and concept, the 50,000 belonged to those people, even though legally I could have stolen it.
Yeah.
You see,
Definitely.
that's the test.
So like behind closed doors, like what, inside, what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. It's just
Exactly.
whether it's okay, cool. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so where should we go with this? So we're going to be tested, everybody. We know that. The testing, we talked about, Stephanie was talking about being earth. Earth means that you have to learn to be earth before you can learn to be wrathful by God. See, if you don't know how to give the mercy and the compassion, you really don't have a right to try to be being wrathful to God, because you don't know. You haven't even learned goodness yet. How do you think it would be so easy to go into badness? Somebody hurts you, I'm going to, get you and get you and get you and get you and get you because you did something bad to me. Where's the mercy? Right? So you have to find it. I really, at the deepest level, you have to find that mercy first. And this is why Jesus said, turn the other cheek. He was trying to teach the people. He was saying, you're not ready to strike out, even though he went into the temple and struck out with the whip and threw out the money changer. But he was saying to the people, you don't have the knowledge or the mercy or the capability or the understanding until you learn to turn the other cheek, until you learn to contain people, until you learn to be able to care for people, until you learn to be able to be hit and give back love. You really don't have the right to go after people and attack them, because you are going to do it through your own hatred. You're going to do it through your own evil in yourself. And that was the teachings that Jesus was trying to bring. So that's what he means when he says be containment, contain people and learn that, learn to give them, when they throw a rock, meaning judgment, hatred, they do you harm. What if you give them love? What would happen? You see, learn to do that first, and then you'll see later about standing up and doing what you need to do. But first, try to give them love. Okay, let's go back.
Dr. Jaffe?
Yes.
I have an observation, if you don't mind sharing.
Go ahead. Is that Fatima speaking?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Let me just pin you a little bit because I'm having trouble seeing you. There you are.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. The story of Noah speaks to me in two ways. One is that we can see that the prophet Noah has been tested to the nth degree by the people he loved. And what I see today is that the biggest test is actually from the people we love. All right?
Yes.
Sometimes we see within families people walking towards Allah, but some walking farther away from Allah. And that kind of tension is all Allah's test, to see how we are going to react, how whether we are going to show mercy and love, even though they are not really walking towards Allah yet. So that's one. The other observation I had about the story, the Prophet Noah's story, is the test that we're going to get is not from Christians or Jews or any other non-believers. It's from within our Muslim community. And I saw that plain sight when I went to do my Umrah in December 2019. And I wanted to go and visit all of the Prophet sites, the Khadijah site, and it was tremendously difficult to get to these sites. And all you hear is that they keep on saying that shirk. You cannot go to all of these sites, And these are all sacred sites. And then when I did my Safa and Marwa, I noticed that all of the walls along when you go up and down, running down and down, you only see Allah, but you don't see Muhammad. Anyway, it's something like denial. And this is an Islamic, I mean, this is a Mecca. This is a holy site. And yet it was complete denial. So to me, that the biggest test that I see today is actually the people closest to us. And that could be within our families, but it could also be within from our own Muslim community, and not necessarily from any outside of that. So that's what
Yeah.
my observation.
I agree. You look very young, but you're very wise.
I'm not young.
That's great. Yeah, no, I think, Prophet Muhammad spoke about this time, and he said, peace and blessings be upon him, that there would be, if I remember, I have to get my numbers right, but I think he said there would be 71 sects of Judaism and 70 would be wrong. He talked about the time when they discovered oil under the ground in Saudi. So we're in the right timing is now. He said there would be, I believe it was 72 sects of Christianity and 71 would be wrong. And there would be 73 sects of Islam and 72 would be wrong. You see, so all these monotheistic religions are struggling from very, very deep corruption from within. And of course, we all hope we're right. We all want to believe that we're the one. Nobody knows for sure, but we can know that the ones that are true are full of love, and they're full of kindness, and they're full of goodness, and they're carrying real mercy, because that's really what Prophet Muhammad was. He was the mercy, peace and blessing upon him, to the world. So we have to look at these things. And when people come and just say, well, ISIS says they're the one, Wahhabi says they're the one, this one says they're the one, that one says they're the one, they all say they're the one. How do you know what's the one? Well, in my understanding, the way you know is that, at least within Islam, you have Islam in a very pure way that's holy and loving and merciful. And then you have Iman in a very loving, kind, deep way in the heart. So the heart is full of love. Then you have Ihsan, that you have excellence, that there's excellence in the attributes that are being expressed through the group, through the person, through the group, in other words, are they really expressing love and mercy or not? And then you look at the Iqan, which is the perfection. Is there perfection? Is there haqiqah? Is there enlightenment? Is there truth, divine truth? Are all four of those things showing up? And if you're not seeing all four of those things, in my opinion, you have incomplete teaching. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, let's just see where we are here. Yeah, okay, so let's see, we'll go a little further, see if I can get this reading done tonight, inshallah. Otherwise, Sarah will be mad at me and because not having this finished. So let me see if I can take care of it. Okay, he says, many times his people tried to hurt him and still he gave to them. What was Noah's answer to his people? He said, I will not discharge any one of my beloveds who loves God, and everyone who loves God is my beloved. If I discharge anyone, God asks me about him. Everyone can find a place around the table of Allah. This table is full of love and it contains everyone. Why would I discharge poor people? I give you space. If you want, there is a place for you. You say that you are higher than me and my poor people, and what you say is right in the material world. But if you look with the deep eye, with the right mind, then you see yourself in a very dirty place. The one who loves Allah and has peace and mercy in his heart, he is the one who lives in the garden now. There is a place for him when Allah gathers everyone on the judgment day and asks everyone about what they did in their life. See, now Sidi's teaching you some very high things here. He's saying, have the table of Allah, everyone around it. He's saying, look with the deep eye. He's saying, not look at the outside. This person has money and this person doesn't. These people are poor and this people are high. He's saying, look at the heart. Is the heart at peace? Is the heart full of mercy and love? Or is the heart dirty, meaning full of greed, corruption, hatred, fear, domination, control, and all the other things? You look at yourself to see what your line is. Actually, this was a very important piece here. There is a place for him when Allah gathers everyone on the judgment day and asks everyone about what they did in their life. You look at yourself to see what your line is. For the beloveds of Allah, there is a line. But for those who do not follow the word of Allah, there is no line on the last day, but the line of Iblis, of Lucifer. This was Noah's answer. He said, "O my people, do you not see that I rely on a clear proof from my Lord, al-Mubin, that he has given me mercy from himself. Through it, and that he has given me mercy from himself, through it been made obscure to you. Could we make you accept it when you are opposed to it?" See, that's no different than today. "And O my people, I ask of you no wealth. My reward is only from Allah, and I am not one to drive away those who believe. Indeed, they will meet their Lord, but I can see that you are an ignorant people." What ignorant of what? Ignorant of the divine light, ignorant of divine truth, ignorant of divine descent, ignorant of divine attribute, ignorant of the angels. "O my people, who would deliver me from Allah if I drove them away? Will you not remember? And I do not tell you that I have the treasures of Allah or that I know the unseen. Neither do I tell you that I am an angel, nor do I say to those whom your eyes look down upon, never will Allah grant them any good. Allah knows what's best, knows best what is in their hearts. Were I to speak like this, truly I would be of the unjust oppressors." Noah told his people that Allah sent down to their prophet, sent him to be their prophet. He showed them what was right and he showed them mercy. If they did not see the mercy, this was from themselves because they refused help. A blind person cannot see the light, but this does not mean there is no light. There is light. But he does not want to see the light, or he cannot see the light because he does not open the eye of his heart. He's referring to the blindness of the heart of these people, of Noah. Noah did not ask his people about what he gave to them from Allah. He did not discharge those who chose to follow him. He knew that nobody understood what he meant. He gave his people chance after chance. He was patient. It is Allah's wisdom to send his prophet in the picture of a human being. Allah knows what is best for his creation. If Allah sent Noah in the image of an angel, how could the people know him or see him? If anyone opens his heart and mind, he can know the wisdom. But the people of Noah, may peace and blessings be upon him, refused. And Sarah, I'm going to go one more paragraph here and then you can, okay. They said, "O Noah, you have argued with us. You have prolonged the argument. So bring upon us what you threaten, if you are truly among the truthful." He said, "Allah alone will bring it down upon you if he wills, and you shall not elude it. My advice will not benefit you, although I want to advise you. If Allah wants you to err, he is your Lord, and to him you shall return." Okay. Do you want me to complete 67 or do you want me to stop here, Sarah? I don't know what your desire is.
Inshallah, it would be good to finish the page, I think.
Okay. All right. Let me finish it then.
Yeah.
Okay. Noah knew the wisdom of why his people did not follow him, even after Allah showed them the difference between right and wrong. There was wisdom. Noah, may peace and blessings be upon him, began to send prayers to Allah. He cried about his people because he loved them. He did not want to see anything bad happen to them, but he was tired of the situation. He could not contain it in his soul. His soul traveled from the world, the dunya, to speak to his beloved God about how he had sent his message to his people who refused his message. He was very careful to teach his people the law of God and the word of Allah. And he said to Allah, "O my beloved God, I love my people and I love you. I sent my word to them, but oh, what can I say about that? They do not want to hear your word. They put their fingers in their ears and they put their clothes over their heads to veil themselves from the word of truth. They have begun to do many sinful things." He said, "My Lord, truly, I have called to my people by night and by day, but my calling only increased their flight. And truly, every time I call them that you may forgive them, they put their fingers in their ears and wrap themselves up in their clothes and persist in their refusal and magnify their pride. Then truly I called to them aloud. Then truly I spoke to them publicly and appealed to them in secret." Okay. So we'll stop here. Again, if you continue, he goes into Ibn Arabi, which, is a really high teaching about the divine descent of the knowledge that Noah lived in. But alhamdulillah, this is a good place to end, I think. So what can we learn from this, everyone? We have to be the earth for people. We have to speak to them about the laws of God and the truth of God in a gentle way. But there is a line. There is a line. And that line is when we cross into evil. That line is when we cross in from what God wants. That line is that we have to hold ourselves to a high state of purity within. So inshallah, God willing, we'll all learn that line, and we'll learn to be able to hold ourselves on the outer and the inner. And even more than that, we'll learn through containing and loving others, how to be the love and how to be the mercy for others. And then once we learn that, then maybe Allah will use us also as his sword of truth, al-haq, and to do other things. But right now, the first thing is we have to learn the love. If we don't have the love, we will become oppressors. We will oppress others, we will dominate others, and our egos will run astray. And that is, we have to guard ourselves against ourselves. We have to guard ourselves against ourselves. Okay, I think that completes it. It was actually a very nice reading. I enjoyed that. And it's nice to connect into Noah's spirit. Sarah, do you want to say something?
Sure. Thank you so much, Ibrahim. That was just a beautiful transmission. So helpful to really bring it into our hearts in a way that we can also, inshallah, bring it more deeply into our lives. Thank you for helping us to understand how to learn to be the love and to be the earth. It's very beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. All right, everyone, I wish you the very best. And remember that the Sufi way is the way of the heart. It's the way of love. It's the path of love. It's the heart surrendering to love. And that no matter what we do, whether it's learning divine law, whether it's learning Quran, whether it's learning how to walk through the marketplace, whether it's learning politics, it doesn't matter. The Sufi is about love. And you have to open that place in your own heart and guard that love inside of your heart, no matter what people throw at you, no matter what rocks have hit you before. We've all been broken. We've all been thrown down. All of us have been hurt. It's not an easy time living on the earth. In fact, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said that when they discovered oil in Saudi Arabia, that this would be one of the most difficult times in all of humanity. From his prophetic wisdom, he said that this time that we are in would be one of the most difficult times in all of the history of humanity. So we're here. We're not in an easy time. It was a tough time. But at the same time, don't leave the love. That's my charge for everybody. If you can keep the love burning in your heart, keep the mercy flowing in your soul, that we will survive this, and ultimately, as a people, we'll reach a new level of consciousness. So it has to begin with a small group of people, and we're one of those groups. There are other groups, many groups like us all over the world, in all the different religions and all different teachings. People are seeking truth and they're seeking love, and we should be one of those people. So I've said, people of the light, unite, stand together with those people. We all need to stand in love, and remember that we've been given a very, very holy teaching here, and that we can truly become the people who carry the Hakika al-Muhammadi. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I wish you all the very best, and it's nice to see everybody, and I pray that Allah gives you everything that your hearts are seeking. Amen.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Ibrahim.
Thank you.